What's up, guys? Welcome back to this week's Reignmakers Fantasy Golf Show presented by our friends over there at DraftKings. Shout out to DraftKings Reignmakers, man. Been an awesome golf season. Been fun to sweat the contest out. Been awesome to see what the team is coming out with in terms of Discord gated contests, set gated contests. We got the showdown slates that are happening here in the fall swing. I think the first season of Reignmakers from a PGA Tour perspective was a really fun one. And I think golf as a sport and PGA in general sets up really nicely for the Reignmakers product. I'm really interested to see what the DraftKings team does going into 2024. We know that we'll be able to use the 2023 assets in 2024 or in its own set of contests in 2024, but really excited to see what they do in 2024. I know in 23, our first big tournament for Reignmakers was centered around the Players Championship. I'm interested to see what they do early in the season, or if they're waiting for kind of the full swing of major PGA Tour events to kick off before they launch packs, new cards, and things like that. So it'll be really interesting to keep an eye on. We've got 6 more events here to close out the 2023 calendar year. We are in China at the ZOZO Championship. We're in Japan at the ZOZO Championship. We are not in China. We're in Japan, and we've got a 78 player field. But for Reignmakers specifically, only 57 players in the field. Going to be a no cut event. So I think, for those of you out there that have played Reignmakers all year, we've had several no cut events. My take on no cut events is, while it reduces what I believe to be the best sweat in fantasy sports, it lets you get a little more crazy when your golfers are guaranteed to play 4 rounds. You can play guys, you can play guys more aggressively, especially in some of the bigger contests where you're going to see ownership condense on the top guys. And I think the other element here from a fall golf standpoint, and especially in this tournament, is we're seeing the big names play. So I did a little digging into this, knowing that anybody inside the top 50, I guess, can still play in these events. What happens is they're only playing either to keep their skills sharp or playing for straight up cash. They can earn no PGA Tour FedEx Cup points, and really the race in terms of FedEx Cup points for this fall season is for guys outside the top 50, for guys 51 through 125, and really that top 10 or next 10, 51 through 60, that's where these guys are really jockeying for position. We talked about this last week, where they're going to get into the first 2 big time events, the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, and then the Genesis Open if you're 51 through 60. So a big jump for those guys that are battling for points over the course of the next 6 weeks. But yeah, this no cut event should be very interesting. We've got some big names in the field: Xander Schauffele, Hideki Matsuyama, Adam Scott. My portfolio actually shapes up pretty nicely. So going to be a lot quicker of a show this week than last week. Last week we were pontificating on all kinds of golf things. I'm actually workshopping, what a different kind of golf show might sound like, what a golf show that kind of talks to golf in general on a daily basis and maybe doesn't get into the weeds of things. Everybody in golf talks about growing the game, but really there's no what I would call foundational content out there that's evergreen, that's repeatable, that explains how the PGA Tour works, that explains things like the FedEx Cup playoff points race, that explains sort of the season-long aspect. So I'm toying with a couple of different ideas in terms of what we do with golf content at OTM and for the 2024 season. So be interested to know what you guys think about some of the golf content we've done this year, and some maybe more elementary or foundational content that I think could be a really interesting mix of what we do on this show, talking about fantasy golf, but also talking about golf in general. Shout out to you guys that are still tuning into the show. JM, Sergeant Stogie, Stars Align just got off work early enough to catch the show. Been setting lineups for over an hour. If I didn't have the builder, it would take 2 days. Yeah, the builder is huge. So a little bit of a different event, given that we're in Japan. We are hours and hours and hours ahead. Typically have a Thursday lock. This week we have a 7:30 p.m. lock, 7:30 p.m. Eastern lock over on DraftKings Wednesday night. So get your lineups in. I anticipate that we could see some element of less. Log in here in DraftKings to see if there's any less entries in the contest this week, just given the nature of timing being different. A lot of people may wait till late Wednesday night or even early Thursday to set their lineups. But if we go over there on DraftKings Reignmakers right now, it looks like guaranteed rare contest all the way up to 7.5K entries. So a ton of entries there. On the elite side of things, we're at 1.7K entries. So I'd say it's pretty standard from a week to week basis. We are obviously going to see a bit less entries into this week's contest because we have a extremely limited field. Like I said, only 57 golfers with Reignmakers cards in this field in total, 78 golfers in total for the field. So we're going to go through we're going to go through any questions you guys have, but like I said, should be a bit shorter of a show this week. Couple of things before we get into lineup builds. I've been hearing a lot about weather in the small niche that is fantasy golf shows, content, and analysis. A little bit about weather in terms of wind in the afternoon on Friday. So seeing that, my take on weather is mostly that there isn't enough edge, especially in Reignmakers. There isn't enough edge to be had to worry too much about weather. I do take it into consideration if it's drastic. What I'm hearing is that while the wind will pick up on Friday afternoon, it won't ultimately be all that different. Yes, it will be harder, but a little bit difficult to really predict. So if you're wanting to stack AM golfers from a Friday standpoint, I think that's the way that I've heard most people approaching this that are going to let weather dictate. I, unfortunately, number one, don't have the portfolio that would allow me to dictate weather in my choices. If you are playing DFS, I think it's a completely different game where I could really see diving into kind of an AM, people call it an AM PM split in a 78 player field. They're going off in threesomes, and I'm not sure you're going to see that much of a time advantage. Maybe the tee times looks like they're about 3 hours apart. So they're going to go off in waves of three. Everyone's going to play every single round unless we see withdrawals. So yeah, to me, it's fancy play syndrome to worry too much about weather. The other element is like trying to trust Japanese weather prognosticators. Just not sure that's really what we're doing here in terms of trying to sweat fantasy golf contests. So I'm not really letting weather dictate anything in terms of how I'm building my teams. I will say this: the fall golf in 3 events, if it's shown us anything thus far, it's shown us that these guys that are inside the top 50 that are playing in these events are pretty damn good. And that maybe the top 50, in terms of how things are separated on the points list, maybe they're just better golfers. I certainly think you can make a case for that. Tom Kim wins last week, honestly, a little bit in sneaky fashion. I believe he made the cut on the number, shot 62 on Saturday to move all the way up the board, and another great round on Sunday to get the win. 3 wins before his 21st birthday, just turned 21 this past week as well. I think Sunday was his actual birthday. So there was some news and media about how he was spending his 21st birthday in Vegas. If you don't know Tom Kim, he said that he spent it with a piece of chocolate and going to bed pretty early because he had a 3 a.m. wake up call to get on a 6 a.m. flight. So pro golfers and travel, just a different breed. But yeah, my take is that these guys that are playing these events inside the top 50 are really guys we should be focused on. And this week it's, the likes of kind of a big 4, if you will. Xander Schauffele at the top, Colin Morikawa behind him, Sungjae Im, and then the local hometown fan favorite, huge favorite of myself, of a lot of the people in our community, Mr. Hideki Matsuyama. Going to be performing in front of the home crowd this week. Has some great course history around here, and I think it would be his second time winning if he wins. So that's Hideki Matsuyama. I think there are other guys that are chasers. Couple of guys on my radar: Keegan Bradley and Adam Scott, 1 and 2. Think they're playing the best golf, and then kind of right behind them is Eric Cole and Sahith Theegala for me. Both guys supremely talented. Eric Cole making a name for himself. Tweeted this earlier this week. Likely will win Rookie of the Year. I believe he's got 5 top 10 finishes now in 2023. Funny that he has rookie status. I think he's almost a 30-year-old PGA Tour. Sorry, not PGA Tour, but 30-year-old professional golf grinders, played any and every tour. He's been kind of playing professional golf basically his whole come up. I think his mom is a professional golfer. So Eric Cole really putting on a show this past season. I think he has a chance to win Rookie of the Year, like his chances here as well. We're playing at Narashino. It's Accordia Golf Narashino Country Club. It's a bomber's paradise. Driving distance is paramount here. So, and really accuracy isn't getting punished. So I think, that makes sense why guys like Hideki, guys like Adam Scott hitting the driver really well, guys like Cam Davis, even Sahith Theegala, who doesn't have the biggest distance advantage, but Sahith is known to be a little less accurate than most. And, accuracy isn't really what we're going for here. We're going for distance. We're prioritizing distance. So I think Cam Davis, a little bit sneaky. And I know I see Hammer in the chat. Shout out Cam Champ, man. I was off the Cam Champ train for as long as I can remember. Cam Champ seems to be this golfer that plays well in courses that fit him well and just can play disastrous, but has played really well over the course of the last 3 or 4 events. And where does Cam Champ succeed? He succeeds with the driver, has a ton of distance. So I think this course sets up well for the likes of a Cam Champ, especially in a no cut event, right? So in these no cut events, we're really going for that upside. We're going for that ceiling. Who has the best ceiling in this field? I think it's a question mark between Morikawa and Xander right now. I would say Xander certainly has a much better floor than Colin Morikawa, but I think Colin Morikawa's ceiling is elite. It is the kind of course and the kind of setup and the kind of field where Morikawa, you can kind of feel him getting back on track. If you remember, at the start of the season in 2023, Morikawa got chased down by Jon Rahm in the first event of the year, the Sony, the Tournament of Champions, where all the winners played. He, was out to a fantastic lead. Jon Rahm chases him down. And that sort of started Morikawa's year off on not the best of foot. We saw him not be as elite of a golfer as he has been in the past with his irons. But if you look at most of the numbers, everything's seemingly coming back and pointing to the fact that Morikawa is kind of back. So I like Morikawa in terms of pure ceiling here. I think I like Xander in terms of floor, but if I had to go with one of those two, I'd be going with I'd be going with Morikawa here just because it's a no cut event. I think he has the best ceiling of anyone. I, of course, if you listen to the show at all year, you all know that I've got some Hideki, I've got some Adam Scott. I've got a question and shout out Rick Run Good, listen to Rick's content every week. Ran a couple of different models on his show, and Adam Scott was the number 1 output on 2 different models, one prioritizing distance, the other a little bit more of a conservative model, but Adam Scott still came in first place, like as the top golfer with the statistics that Rick was running his model off of. And a lot of that was to do with his approach play and his irons has just been pristine with his iron play. So I really like Adam Scott. So I got a question of like, where do I go with my top lineup? Where do I go with my captain spot? We're going to go through my lineup builds and any questions you guys have here right now on our site. Let me share my screen and we will get that done. What else? Before we line up build, one other guy to put on the radar here because I think it's relevant in terms of psychology, in terms of the mental aspect of golf. A guy that I will certainly be watching very closely this week is Keegan Bradley. Keegan Bradley snubbed from the Ryder Cup team. The U.S. obviously gets throttled in the Ryder Cup over there in Europe. And I think Keegan's probably a little bit irked, a little bit angry about the fact that he got left off the team, about the fact that he thought he played well enough to be on the team. And we're getting Keegan, who has pretty much the same, if not even better, history around this golf course than Hideki Matsuyama. So Keegan Bradley, in his three times playing here, 2020, 2022, 2023, he's finished first, seventh, and 13th. So really, really like Keegan Bradley in terms of the numbers and how this course represents itself, on top of, like, he's going to have all the reason in the world to play well and to continue to show that in his mind and in many fans' minds, Keegan should have been on that U.S. Ryder Cup team. So I like Keegan a good bit in a bounce back spot in terms of like his own game, his own mental capacity, and what he's trying to prove to the golf world. So I like Keegan a good bit. All right, let's share my screen here. I'll build or I've already actually built a DFS team. So I'll go through my DFS build as well. That's where I get a little Keegan Bradley. I don't have enough Keegan Bradley to I don't have any Keegan Bradley actually in Reignmakers. So I gotta get my Keegan Bradley exposure in DFS. All right. Can we see the screen? Oh, let me there we go. There we go. All right. As you can see, 57 golfers in Reignmakers. We're on the players page, otmnft.com, Reignmakers PGA players page is where we are. This gives you the odds and the low ask of all the prices of these golfers. We talked about low ask a little bit last week. I just don't think you can trust low ask all that much in terms of like liquidity and how these golfers are moving. We'll show the market on some of these players here shortly, but you could see it's a top heavy field. Xander Schauffele plus 700, 7-1 to win. Colin Morikawa after that. Sungjae Im, Hideki Matsuyama. That's the big four that I referenced. And then a couple other guys. Sahith, Keegan, Adam Scott, even Bo Hostler kind of creeping into the conversation. Eric Cole. And then a couple other guys underneath here. Adam Svensson played pretty good last week. Emiliano Grillo, my guy, has really struggled in this couple of fall golf outings. So looking for him to pick up the pace here in a no-cut event. Has been cut the last two events. There's Cam Champ at plus 5,000. We talked a little bit about Cam Champ and his weapon of the driver. Coming on down, kind of after that, I mean, you're really getting who knows what out of the rest of the golfers. Again, my point, though, is they're playing 4 rounds. So I think we have to remember they're playing 4 rounds. It's a par 70 golf course. So if you can just play 4 rounds under par, you're going to get that all rounds under 70 bonus. I think we are going to see birdies in this event. So I would assume you're going to have 3-4 of your golfers, get that all rounds under 70 bonus. Likely going to need your captain to get that all rounds under 70 bonus. If you want to take down these contests, just so many entries in these contests as well. So I really think that's crucial. So I think that's important for thinking about how you're building your lineup. Also, 57 players, we're going to see duplicates is my guess, especially in this rare contest with, 7, what we got here? 7 plus almost 8K entries in this rare guaranteed contest. So you're going to see duplicates is what I would bet. If you got a pretty high serial set, on some of the top guys, you're going to want to have to get different at that 4th and 5th spot, I think, in order to make sure you're differentiated. So I think just remember that when you're in the elite contest and you're down to 2K entries, I don't think you have to worry about it as much, but in this 8K entry contest for rare, I think you definitely have to worry about it. And then of course in core, we're at 14K. So yeah, I think you definitely have to worry about it for core. I'd also be trying to play single entry in core and rare. I didn't play single entry in elites, but maybe it's worth it. Let's take a look at this. Payout structure, 1K to first, paying out 75 to 14th. Yeah, I think could be interesting to play single entry. So I don't know what I'll do. not even sure if I can switch to single entry. It's kind of the issue with needing to drive to the West Virginia border to enter my lineups. But yeah, I think we'll see duplicates this week. All right. Am I missing any commentary from you all? No. Okay, perfect. All right. I'll show you my teams that I built, made the drive last night, put my lineups in. Here's my top lineup where I'm kind of deciding. And let me know what you guys think. I'm deciding Hideki or Adam Scott for this top lineup. And maybe I'm just trying to be a little fancy. Adam Scott seems like he's going to get much less captain ownership than Hideki on home field. I'm recognizing I do have a little Keegan. I forgot about the playoff cards that I have. So I have Keegan at the top, who I like. I have Xander at the top, who I obviously really like at the top of the board. So I think this is a really strong lineup. Adam Shank should be a little different. The question is, do I need to go Adam Scott over Hideki, or can I stay with Hideki? I'm pretty tempted to go Adam Scott, I think. Not sure where I'm going to go. I did go single entry in the builder here. Grillo, like I said, has really struggled, needs to get back on track. Game just seems like it's all over the place, not making enough birdies, just sitting around even par, making a lot of pars. And fall golf and these courses, when you have to make birdies and make them in bunches, even par is not going to get it done. So looking to see if Grillo can pick up the pace there. Captaining him in this lineup with Svensson, Hodges, KH Lee. KH Lee, huge bounce back week this past week. Was horrible 2 weeks ago, bounced back last week, finished in the top 10, I want to say. And then I'm just going. I haven't played enough Dylan Wu. It's been my guy. Haven't played enough. If Dylan Wu is going to get a win, it's going to come in these like fall events, especially this fall event with less golfers. The question is, as always, probably the fifth time I've said this on these shows, can he make enough birdies? I think he certainly will avoid the big numbers. That's the strength of his game. Can he make enough birdies? Can he stay bogeyless? That is huge in these contests. If you don't make any bogeys, you get that clean sheet bonus. That's huge in these contests. So picking up any extra point that you can is massive. So those are my top two lineups. I think the rest of the season, for me, it will continue to be play the best plays. It will continue to be jamming them in. It hasn't worked that well, but I'm just going to keep sticking to the course. I'm going to kind of keep sticking. I think it's a little bit of a guessing game if you're just trying to cherry pick different guys. I am trying to say, which courses line up with which guys' games as much as I possibly can. But sometimes it's really difficult to make that decision and really difficult to say fade somebody at the top that's plus 2,000, plus 3,000 for somebody who's plus 8,000, plus 9,000. It certainly can work and does work in golf. It's just a little bit of fancy play syndrome for me. All right. Let's see. I got my lineup submitted already. Can you guys see this? Yeah, I built a DFS team. Keegan Bradley, Cam Champ, my guy Mark Hubbard, Hideki, Adam Scott, Dylan Wu. So doubling down on my guys. Just entered it into one contest, like a 20. I think it was like the bigger, not the massive contests for 15 or 20 bucks, but the smaller contest for 20 bucks. So getting a little DFS exposure with these guys as well. I think this will be a pretty chalky build, I suppose. A lot of people will be on Champ. A lot of people will be on Hideki and Scott. Hubbard and Wu are kind of my pivots off chalk. I don't think those guys will be high owned at all. So going with less ownership down the board, going with more chalk guys at the top. No Xander. I think Xander will be probably the most owned between him and Colin Morikawa. I assume those guys will be the most owned. I think Ricky Fowler, in terms of DFS, will be the least owned, just with the way pricing goes. Most all the ownership that I've seen across the industry has Ricky at the lowest. So I could see playing Ricky just as a sneaky play, but feels like a little bit of fancy play syndrome for me. So going less chalky as we go down the board, and we'll see how we fare in DFS. All right. Double checking any Discord conversations or comments. Been quiet, man. It's been quiet. Been researching a lot of different things about golf. I talked about some Corn Ferry Tour stuff last week. There's been a lot of articles I've been reading and I've been posting. Not even to mention the controversy that is Live Golf and what Live is kind of up against alongside the PGA Tour. with the deadline of December 31 looming for the PGA Tour and the Live/Saudi agreement, I fully anticipate that will get pushed back, that there will be a delay. There are way too many global hurdles at this point in time, geopolitical hurdles, and don't think that a deal will get done, at least not directly, between the PGA Tour and the Saudis. I know, based on reading some articles, it sounds like there's a lot of private equity, a lot of banks, a lot of big time firms that are interested in an equity stake in the PGA Tour. So I think they're pretty happy that they'd be able to drum up, a significant sum of money without potentially using the PIF and the Saudi investment. That would be the new co that would be formed between the PGA Tour and ultimately Live Golf. So more news on that front, I'm sure, is coming, but it'll continue to be a very interesting world in the game of golf. And it's wild that golf is just in the spotlight on all of these things that are geopolitical in nature that's happening in the world today. So we'll continue to keep our eyes on it. We'll continue to put our lineups together. We'll continue to sweat what I believe to be the best sweat in fantasy sports. So appreciate you all for tuning in. Any questions, hit me in the Discord. Get the lineup submitted. Like I said, Lock is almost exactly 5 hours from now. So it's actually 7:45. So it's got pushed back some. 7:45 p.m. Eastern, 5 hours, 1 minute and 15 seconds from right now. So get those lineups submitted and enjoy yourselves a good sweat heading into the weekend alongside all of the NFL that we will all be consuming. So I'll talk to you guys next week for another episode. And until then, may your best teams rise to the top of the leaderboard. May you see yourselves and get yourselves a sweat. And I will talk to you all next week. Later.